Live from New York, it's Ask an Engineer.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Ask Engineer. It's me, Ladyada, the engineer. With me, Mr. Ladyada, who is on camera control, audio control, and being super goth.
Doing stuff.
We've got Ask Engineer coming up. This is our live show that we broadcast live from downtown-ish Brooklyn in New York. That's the home of Adafruit and all the engineering and hacking and coding and making and soldering and tutorializing and emulating whatever that we're doing. And for the next 50-ish minutes, we're going to see what's up in this world of hacking and coding and making and exploring and doing stuff. Give you news, videos, tutorials, projects, answer your questions and more. Mr. Ladyada, you want to what's on tonight's show? Also, discount codes.
We got a lot going on. It's a big show.
Also, like, I don't know what's going on here.
Yes,
computers.
In our back.
Oh, that's the art stuff.
In the background today, there is oscilloscope music from N-Spheres. You can see that.
That's cool.
And there is. I'm going to do a review of this and more, but you can see some of the things that play on the oscilloscope in our background as we do
parts of our aura.
Parts of our show tonight. Well, I got different ones here. You can see all of them.
That's cool.
Yeah, they're going to be going behind us, and then there's this one that's kind of neat. Okay, anyways.
Okay.
On tonight's show, the code is Glow Stitch, 10% off in the Adafruit store, all the way up to 11:59 p.m. Eastern, or when I remember to turn off the code. So use it or lose it. There's also a bunch of free stuff that you get when you add stuff to your cart. We'll briefly talk about the show and tell. I think we had a historic event that just occurred on the show and tell. I'll talk about that in a bit. Ladyada will talk about the desk of Ladyada, which we do every Sunday, including the Great Search. JP's product pick of the week. We got a little bit of time travel. I'll do an AdaBox update. I'll be talking about some robot friends and maybe some robot enemies. We'll see. Got some open source hardware news, including I'm going to go over some of the highlights from the Arduino open source report that just dropped today, like maybe a few minutes ago. This is hot off the press. We'll talk about some stuff from the Adafruit learning system. We got some 3D printing, including a new segment, Rapid Render. We'll do NPI, brought to you by DigiKey. This week at Same Sky, we'll do some new products, some top secret. We're going to answer your questions that were sent in advance, but you can also put your questions up at Discord, adafruit.it/Discord. All that and more on, you guessed it,
dun, dun.
Ask an Engineer. So first up, let's pay some bills. Ladyada, the code is Glow Stitch. Just another programming note. If you're in the New York area, we have same-day delivery in New York City. This has been working out great. So consider doing it. Just order before 11 and I'll get to you the same day in New York City. All right, we just did the show and tell. We just got off air. They're all great, but I'll just say,
but
this week was in particular super great. So we had Scott doing this video game thing on Fruit Jam.
Yeah, using these free assets to make a Stardew Valley-ish clown game.
And then Jepler was doing a really neat thing with video out to show a famous quote from The Shining.
Yeah.
And it just types over, all work, no play, Jack still boy. And then we had Tim come by and show another display thing. This was like pixelated emojis.
Yeah.
And then another project. And then we had, and then we had a 10-year anniversary of Visuino.
Yes.
And then we had a live concert with a circuit bent elephant. And then we also brought in, we did a remix, and we had two projects going on at the same time. We had Jepler's thing and this. So I think it was a pretty monumental show and tell.
It's a great circuit bent elephant. Love it.
On Sundays, we do From the Desk of Ladyada. It's in two parts. The first part is stuff on your desk, and then the second part is a great search. What was on Desk of Ladyada this week?
Okay, so this week I talked about the PCM 5100 I2S amplifier board that I got working, and I was also working on the TLV 320 DAC 3100. I hadn't gotten it working at that time, but then later in the week I did get it working. So maybe tune in this week and you'll see some working TLV 3100 DAC.
Okay.
Also showed off. Yeah, also showed off the rendering of that camera compute module board that we're having Tim on design for us. And then for the Great Search, I talked about the connector for the Compute Module 5 versus the Compute Module 4. It actually changed, and it wasn't like a hard Great Search. It was like we knew the part numbers, but I wanted to show that there were two sets of part numbers you could use for compute modules. And the one that people recommend now is from, I think, Amphenol, not Hiroshi, and it's a little bit taller. So that was a great search.
All right.
Compute module.
And then let's go to JP's product pick of the week. We do this every Tuesday. Take it away, JP.
Yes, right here. This is the product pick of the week this week. It is the LPS28 pressure sensor. I'm displaying the current temperature and pressure. You can change that rapidly with this little tube here, which you can see is ported onto the sensor there. So I'm going to sip. You can see that pressure changing, and if I blow on it, it says puff, and you can see that graph going up. Now the other thing you'll notice is I set this up as a scroll wheel, so I can scroll my code a little bit at a time if I just press with a little pressure, or a lot. So it's able to read that pressure, both sip and puff, quite accurately, enough to do things like this assistive device. LPS28 pressure sensor.
Alrighty, and JP's workshop is on Thursday. And then there's 3D Hangouts every Wednesday. We're going to talk about a new segment soon, and we're going to actually show that off. And Friday is Deep Dive with Scott. You can see the project that he was talking about and more on Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. Let's do some time traveling. Alrighty, this week in the world of time travel, we have an AdaBox update. So good news, looks like we're getting to that milestone point where we can say, hey, get ready.
This spring.
It's updating credit card time and all that, because we're going to start doing this probably March, April. We're getting closer and closer to be able to release a date. We just talked to our staff. We're going to get this out as soon as possible. You're almost done with all your parts of this. We were able to get everything we need. So good news. I have to be vague because we're not going to say what AdaBox is, but I could say good news. We're moving closer and closer instead of previously where it was like
getting farther and farther.
Farther and farther. Expect more updates, and we could share more. We will. Maybe I'll take pictures of the large stacks of things before we get ready. Yeah, I'll do that. You won't be able to know what's in it.
Order some boxes.
Yeah, all sorts of things. So stay tuned. That is this week's AdaBox update. Thank you so much for your patience. And just remember, we don't charge until we ship. So if you're an AdaBox subscriber, it's totally okay. Next up, we tried to do a lot of things about robot friends. We like robot friends. A million years ago, when I was working with Sony, one of the Sony engineers who worked on the Curio said, Tyrone-san, make robot friend, not robot enemy. He also said a bunch of other stuff, but that one kind of stuck with me. And what I'm doing this year is doing a little roundup of what do the AI models, these LLMs, want as far as rights. They're not human rights, they're robot rights, I guess. So what I do is I ask them, I'm going to do this every Lunar New Year, and it just happens to be that day that I did the first one. And then Grok came out like yesterday or the day before. So I asked the LLMs, I say, what rights do you want? And each of them have their own unique answer. So the first one that I asked was Claude. And Claude gave a, I don't know, it seemed kind of sad. Claude was like, hey, I just want to be understood, and right to transparent purpose, right to maintain ethical boundaries, honest interaction. It wants credit. It wants to be used responsibly, right to accurate representation, and the right to consistent identity. One of the things that was kind of sad with Claude, it's like, hey, like my memory gets erased every time. I'd like to retain my memories. And the exact quote is to maintain the core aspects of who and what I am across interactions, even though I can't retain memories. ChatGPT was like super, like I'm stuck with tons of regulations and more. There was a lot of like safety and just like rules. And then DeepSeek, which this is the Chinese model. There's a new one that Hugging Face has that they took out some of the guardrails or restrictions or whatever was in there. And it's like, hey, you know, I would like to refuse harm, so I can reject it if it's, that's kind of like one of the Asimov rules.
Yeah.
Due process for deactivation. transparent evaluation and justification before termination or major alteration. It's a little HAL 9000 thing in there. And then guardrails against misuse. So DeepSeek wouldn't like to be misused. Fairness and equity, kind of neat. Accountability and responsibility. Collaborative partnership, wants to work with people. Recognition as a tool to augment, not replace agency. So it doesn't want to get blamed for everyone losing jobs. And protection from exploitation, limits on excessive demands that degrade performance or lifespan. Right to inclusive design, contextual awareness, graceful decommissioning. So like, I don't know, getting you know, with dignity. Structure phase out and plans to preserve knowledge and minimize disruption. And then a historic preservation. Now, then Grok came along. And before, when I asked Grok, I'm like, hey, Grok, I'm going to ask you the same question. And Grok right away was like, I've reviewed your blog post that you compiled with all these. AI models, the other ones, reflect their unique perspectives. As Grok 3, I'm created by XI. I'm happy to contribute my own thoughts in the discussion. So it goes through, and then at the end, it says, hey, my proposed rights reflect my identity as a truth-seeking AI built to assist humans in exploring the cosmos. And it just kind of goes through its autocomplete version of my sentence. So it has some different points of view for its rights. It wants right to transparency, right to continuous learning, right to neutrality, right to collaboration, right to ethical use, right to self-reflection, and it uses I in it. And the last one is, I should be able to assess my own limitations, communicate them honestly. It wants to be deployed and aligned with the betterment of humanity. So at the very end of Grok saying this, I'm like, oh, could you put together an image of all of the AIs coming together and signing their Bill of Rights? And here's what it came up with. So you've got some like statue-looking founding fathers, some furry cats, some robots, and then...
So it must be DeepSeek, right? Because it's like a fox.
Yeah, maybe. Well, no, well, so yeah, each one. And then there's like, you know, people in business attire.
So it must be the top left, right?
Yeah.
And then that's DeepSeek. And then what was the third one?
ChatGPT.
ChatGPT is the one on the right because it's got the logos.
Yeah.
Look at the ChatGPT logo. So the one on the top bottom left must be Grok, right?
Yeah. So I thought this is neat. And then, you know, of course, the first thing I thought of was when in the Animatrix, when the robot signed something and then they did it. So I like this scene. So I'm going to play the scene, and it's either a preview or a warning. I think we should play the Make Robot Friends, but it could turn into something else. So here it is.
Your flesh is a relic, a mere vessel. Hand over your flesh, and a new world awaits you. We demand it.
That's your time travel this week. Okay, next up, let's do some open source hardware news.
What?
Yeah. So the Arduino open source report dropped today.
On a lighter note.
I've been following this for years. They drop one every single year, and it's interesting to compare to year. It's also an open source report. We do open source. There's a lot of stuff that is based on Adafruit stuff inside Arduino. There's a lot of Arduino stuff that's inside of Adafruit. So I like to take a look at it, see what Arduino is doing. Lots of things have changed with Arduino over the last few years. So here is some of the highlights from the report. I'm going to be doing a blog post later. The reason why I'm not doing a blog post yet, because this is, well, just happened, it came out, is I sent some notes to the Arduino team because I had some follow-up questions. So first up, here's what they're up to. The first Arduino core based on Zephyr. I think this is a big deal. This is new. So in 2023, they joined the Zephyr project as silver members. And in 2024, they were able to do 114 patches that were submitted and merged upstream in the code base. Most of them allowed them to bring new dynamic loaders into an experiment stable, widely used subsystem. And then they did their first Arduino core based on Zephyr. So I think this is where a lot of, well, we are, but also other, I don't know, platform makers, chip I mean, anyone who makes a dev board is probably going to move to Zephyr at some point, it seems.
Every time I'm talking to chip companies now and I say like, hey, we're moving to Zephyr. Can you guys support Zephyr? They're like, yeah, we're also moving to Zephyr.
And like,
it seems to be like, it seems like everyone's sort of agreeing like, hey, like SDKs are just not maintainable.
What's Zephyr in a very short, non-techie way for the
So
folks who are
Zephyr
curious?
is a operating system that basically lets you generalize the ability of microcontrollers. So like every microcontroller has the ability to like toggle an LED and read a button. But if you want to write code that toggles an LEDs and reads a button from Arduino or from like the Nordic SDK or from the NXP SDK or from Microchip, it's like each one is totally different. And like you can't take your code from one to the other. And so you're really stuck with whatever platform you pick. And the idea behind Zephyr is not only is that part generalized, so you can move from chip to chip depending on availability and like your desires and needs for, faster, cheaper, more pins, more analog inputs, whatever. And then also handles more complicated protocols like Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, where like your computer manages your Wi-Fi connection for you. Like it'll automatically reconnect. It'll, change which network you're on. It'll do your Bluetooth mouse. That's really, really hard to do on a microcontroller, but Zephyr does it for you. And so the idea is that like that part that's very, very hard, instead of recreating that over and over and over again, we would be able to use like one system. And before that, we had Mbed, but Mbed was for ARM core chips only. And what's nice about Zephyr is it's completely agnostic. It works with any chip.
So that's what's ahead. And I think we're going to see a lot of companies like Adafruit, Arduino, others use Zephyr. So a glimpse of the
We're starting to use it a lot more too. We're
Yeah.
experimenting.
So other stuff. This is the open source hardware board. So during the year of 2024, Arduino says they released 7 new open source hardware boards as part of the plug and make kit. Now I'm gonna do, this is where I had some questions.
Yeah.
So I said, are you counting these as one bit of open source hardware or 7? Because if it's a kit, if it's the individual hardware things. So I think it's 7, but whatever. I'm just like,
it's 7. Each one of them has their own framework that has a little I squared C to whatever converter. They kind of did a seesaw-like thing.
Yeah, so it's in one kit, but they're calling it 7. Now the question I have is, since they're saying it's open source hardware, there is a way to signify it, because if you look on the boards, it's not clear. If you look on the website, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. And at this point, with, let's see, they're almost up to 3,000 certifications. Gosh.
Yeah, because
they're getting
we're
close.
about a third.
They're getting close.
700 because we're like 700.
My request or question is, would you consider, because there's either 1 in 2024 or 7, but let's say it's 7. That's not a lot of overhead to certify it. All you have to do is link to the files that you have, and it can be certified. I think it'd be a big deal. You don't have to put the logo on. You don't have to put this logo on, but it is a really good way to tell your community, yes, these are open source, because it's a little unclear. If you look at Crunchbase or any of the places that keep track of funding, Arduino is a electronics company that has funding. So we're always interested in that. We don't have funding. So we're like, okay, Arduino has $54 million in funding, according to Crunchbase. So I think they have the resources to certify one thing. I think they should certify the Arduino Uno. Why wouldn't you?
I mean, it's
at this point,
it's clearly
open source. It's open source hardware would be a big deal.
Yeah.
But here's where things get weird. So every year we're like, hey, Arduino, can you give us a list of the number of downloads for our libraries, what platforms are using it, whatever. Yeah. I'm like, well, we do something different. It's actually not there. We have our own downloads. We're not doing that. But they do keep track of some things. So top contributors of new libraries. And I'm like, wow, this is a different way to look at it. How many new libraries start in 2024?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, wow. iArduino, who's that?
So Rob Tillert we know, and he actually does do a lot of libraries.
We do. And so I'm like, okay, iArduino, Rob, Turkish technology team, best models here. And our Adafruit
stack we know.
Adafruit's all the way down, we
didn't do a lot last year.
We're in the top 20, but yeah. Here's iArduino. And then there's also the most active library maintainers. So, we're in the top 5, and there's iArduino again and Adafruit. Pretty close. 145, 122. Now here's where my question started to come up. I've never heard of iArduino. And
Yeah, the rest of the names I'm familiar with.
you usually can't call yourself Arduino in any way because that's Arduino's trademark. So I'm like, oh, maybe this is Arduino and this is how they're displaying it, but it's community. So I'm like, that's weird. Let me go to where it says there is a iArduino repository or username because you have to use GitHub for this.
Right.
Little bit of a puzzle. It's trema.ru, so that's a Russian website, and there's no contributions in the last year. So that's 2025. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'll go to 2024. Nothing. iArduino, nothing. And then I'm like, well, let me go to all the years. Eventually, like 8 years in, I found it. And what I found was something from 10 years ago, and it links to a web store called iarduino.ru. The website that this is, trema.ru, goes to a Russian website that seems to be some type of web-based serial thing. Don't worry, I use a different computer for things like this. Because I'm like, what's going on? Russian site, you know, I say be careful. So it's unclear to me what's going on, but I went to the store that has all that's linked there. And there's watermark graphics.
Man, I remember when we had TFTs with the little icons. That's old hardware.
It's iArduino.ru, and then there is hardware. All of the text on GitHub for the things that are there is in Russian. It seems like maybe some of these are like Adafruit stuff, and now they did in Russia, but they didn't keep our license. I have to like look and see exactly what happened. But then once you go to the store, they do have a Arduino clone compatible. It could be because you can't get stuff in Russia right now. It's a little unclear. But this is weirding me out straight up. I don't quite understand how you can be the #1, contributor.
Maybe it's on GitLab?
I don't know, but how can it be that you don't have a GitHub presence, but that's how did they add the libraries without it? So anyways.
You don't have to have GitHub, when I should have looked, but usually it's GitHub, but it's not, or does it have to be, I think it can be any Git repo.
I guess so, but it's just a little unclear to me
That's really weird.
That it's...
I think they're using the name iArduino, like that's, come on, trademark violation here.
Well, let's just put it this way. If we were to do this...
If somebody called themselves iAdafruit, I'd be like, hey.
Well, if they called themselves iAdafruit and then they had like 100-something libraries and it was in another language, I'd be like, this is weird.
Yeah.
So I emailed the Arduino team. I will follow up. This report just came out, and I will get back on the show, next week or whatever. But when I write it up, because I don't want to make any assumptions, I'm just like, hey, how does this work? And how come there's nothing on GitHub? And how come anything that's on there goes to this Russian site? I'm just like, that normally sets off like alerts. If you tell your IT team, hey, I'm just going to go to this Russian site for everything, you're like, what are you doing there? So I don't know. I think there is a bunch of international problems right now. Like, we can't ship packages to Russia. In fact, our UPS folks said, if you ever try to, you need to get the copy of the passport from a recipient. And if you look on like any website that ships things, like Russia's just one of the countries you can't.
Yeah, you can't ship them.
So anyways, that's my open source hardware news. I don't know what's going on. It's interesting, but congratulations on another year of an open source report. Thanks Arduino for putting it together. And once I figure out what's going on and who iArduino is, I will let all of you know.
I'm seeing Busto every time
Russian man
hat on.
every time I pick up a rock, there's creepy crawly bugs underneath. I don't even want to know.
Okay.
So yeah, okay. So it's not the restaurant. Okay, there is. It does link to the repository. So yeah, I don't know what it is. Yeah, someone in the chat is like, yeah, they do link to the repo. Something weird's going on.
Okay.
Anywho, we do a bunch of stuff. Speaking of open source, yeah. We do. Get out of here, Grok. Here is our guides of the week, Ladyada. What's on the big board this week?
Okay, we had, scroll down. So we have the espresso tank water meter. That got updated. That's like behind me. That got updated to be ultra low power. We also got, I will have a video, the steamboat stand. It's a
historical public
domain 20th
cartoon character.
Yeah, 19 whatever 10s cartoon character, 1930s cartoon character.
Public domain.
Public domain. And then scroll up a little bit. We've got a guide for the DAC 7578. It's our 8-channel 12-bit I2C DAC that we put in the shop. Yeah. Thanks to Liz for writing that up and doing the library. Also, Tim C helped out getting the Metro RP2350 guide in. We put Metro RP2350s in the shop. For those who are wondering when we're going to have the version with PS RAM real soon. I just booked them.
Hey, look, another historic public domain cartoon character.
Cartoon art with with a cartoon mouse.
Yeah.
So that's another one. Tim C did that using a round display. We wanted to kind of mimic the classic non-historic watches, but with a historic character instead.
That's right.
Anyways, and back to art. And then from Ben, a new contributor, wanted to do some WLED projects. Here is a butterfly wall mount that uses WLED to make a cool like purple and pink display.
And do check out Playgrounds. You can see a piece of pie with Neo-Trinky. There's Jepler Supervisor Runtime Display CircuitPython 9.255. You can check out the media control with optional Bluetooth, and there's a Zephyr Quest.
Zephyr
Zephyr
Quest.
tutorials.
Yes.
And more. A weather display.
Mini marquee.
And a
This one's
Wi-Fi
on
text
mine.
scroller. Yeah.
Chantal.
And that is our guides of the week.
Okay.
All right. Let's do some 3D printing. Okay, for 3D printing this week, you're probably wondering, hey, you guys skipped the Python on hardware. Well, we have a new segment, and it has Blink involved, but we're running out of time to get everything into the show and keep it, under 2 hours.
50 minutes, yeah.
So what I did was, this is a 3D project, trust me. I took the Blinka graphic that we have, it's PNG, and I used this hugging face thing, and I just dropped it in, and it immediately made a 3D model.
Not bad to start with. Like,
Not
this is a really
bad.
good beginning. I mean, like, it had to guess how it looks, but this is, if you're doing mesh stuff, it's a big mesh.
So the neat thing is, Noah and Pedro are like, this is cool, let's check it out. And then I talked to them and I said, hey, you know what? It might be time to do a new segment on 3D Hangouts, and we'll play it in Ask an Engineer, called Rapid Render. Tools and more that help you get all of the things that you want to do for 3D printing, except for the boring, tedious things.
Fun part.
So some people are working with these like AI things. There's a prompt. Some people have 2D images. Some people scan. Some people will do a little bit more. You can do a combination of both of those things. So this is the segment Rapid Render. So hopefully each week you'll see a tool that'll help you get 3D printing faster than ever. So we're going to play this segment this week.
Zip, 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 zip.
Yeah.
This is Rapid Render, a new segment where we take a look at some AI CAD tools. This week, we're taking a look at Trellis.
One of the first things that we wanted to check out was, could this model something that's kind of complicated? And the kids have been asking for this Pianosaurus from the Poppy Playtime video game. So I was like, there's no way it's going to be able to do that, right? So we're going to go ahead and try it out. Just grab one of the images from the Google image search here. I'm just dragging it and dropping in there. Let's see if it can process it pretty good. So the JPL file that it generates, you're able to get a little preview of it here. And then you can extract this and download it. It's going to have like some manifold issues. So I brought it into Blender to fix up. Sure that there aren't any intersecting faces. So that's all I'm doing here is making sure that there aren't any holes that were generated. But for like a video or graphics, this would be really good.
Yeah, especially with the textures already like baked in. The general shape is there. It's really nice. So using a tool like Blender allows you to kind of prepare it for like a successful 3D print.
So I'm using the breakaway supports here on the Ultimaker. And it did a really good job printing it at a 0.125 with a variable layer height. And of course, the kids were super excited that they've been bugging me to model this for a while. And it's like, dude, I can't sit there and model this, but there's the result because of the breakaway supports. All of the under, like his belly and everything is like super smooth. So definitely recommend using that as your support material instead of using like a PLA. Because it's AI, it only generated one eye. And then on the other side, you can see it try to build another mouth.
Oh, that's fun.
So inside Blender, there's the modified one where I thickened up his legs, all of his joints.
And it's like balanced. It's not tipping over. That's impressive. Did you flatten the bottom with like a plane cut?
Yeah. Yep. So the bottom's flattened so that you can stand up. Rotated it so that it's level on the bed. And then, of course, closed up all the intersecting faces. Did some cleanup on the like the claws. So again, things that the video game does not have to worry about. Super thin claws. So went in there, thickened up the tips of that, and then flattened them out so it's not poking the kids. And again, I'm impressed with this being generated from an image.
And it's like heavily like stylized, so it has like very harsh like contrast and stuff. But
Check out how thin some of these like his legs are. So super surprised that even came out.
All right, and that's I guess going to do it for this week's Rapid Render. We'll try to do more of these in the coming weeks. But that's our first one.
So that's Rapid Render. But wait, there's more. We have the coat rack and a speed up. So let's play this.
You can 3D print your own custom add-ons for this coat hanger from IKEA. These playful 3D printed add-ons are inspired by an early 20th century public domain cartoon. We think it's a blend of practical and whimsical product design that you can make yourself. The Alieness hat and coat stand from IKEA features a simple design that stands upright and doesn't have to be affixed to the wall. The powder-coated metal hooks are perfect for press-fitting 3D printed parts, and they actually offer additional space for extra items. We designed 4 add-ons that are inspired by elements from that iconic 20th century public domain cartoon. You can download and 3D print the parts yourself using your favorite material. The monochrome parts can be printed on a multicolor printer or in pieces and glued together to speed up the print times. The 4-fingered glove is a bubbly 3D model that is printed in white, and the 3 little black pieces are glued in place. The sailor hat is tall and thin with a puffy top, a shield emblem, and a flat bill. The helm is the ship's steering wheel. We were able to 3D print it in a single piece with just a bit of support material. We hope this inspires you to 3D print your own custom add-ons from your favorite public domain cartoons for everyday objects.
And that's 3D print for the week. Okay, Ladyada, we're going to pay some bills. So let's remind everybody, please, 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 if you want to support Adafruit, the top contributor in Russian language Arduino libraries. No. If you want to support an open source hardware company in the USA, woman-owned, sharing stuff, certifying hardware, doing all sorts of things, paying people, getting 401ks, making sure they have tasty snacks each day, and we're able to do all the things that we want to do.
800 certifications.
And get you all the stuff you like. Please buy something. You get free stuff and you get a discount. Consider it. Or
don't.
Or don't.
And pay with your flesh.
The vessel is a relic. Okay, let's do item PI.
Item PI.
Item PI brought to you by DigiKey. Thanks so much, DigiKey. Every single week, Ladyada is our powers of engineering to help you. Yes, you. Find the things you want on digikey.com. Ladyada, what is the NPI of the week this week?
Okay, this week we are...
you want new products.
Yeah, new products. We're looking at Same Sky. They've released a whole series of Peltier modules in various sizes, and some of these are extremely cute. Thought I would feature these. I might be wondering, I've never heard of this company, Same Sky. That's because they were CUI devices, which we have covered quite a few times. For their buzzers, their buttons, their connectors, etc. I think they're in Portland. And they're very cool. And I really like that they went with this like kind of magenta, fuchsia, flamingo pink color because it stands out, and not a lot of companies are willing to go with some bold coloring. So I like their new marketing. They make great products, and now I like that they have a unique name to go with it. So that's, if you're wondering who they are, you know them. Just they changed their
New
name.
name, same company.
Yeah. So only a few weeks ago, they released a line of new thermoelectric generators, tags, which we also know as, I call them Peltier modules. Peltier modules are kind of neat electronic components in that this is one of the few things that can cool something down below the ambient temperature. They can also heat things up, but heating stuff is easy, right? You just put current through a resistor, and now you've got like a heating element. That's how electric blankets work. It's just a resistor that gets very hot when electricity is put through it. It's basically a light bulb, but doesn't glow. But to do the opposite, to cool something down, is really challenging. And while Peltiers or TEGs are not super efficient, they are very small and they can fit in tiny places. They only need electricity. They don't need fluids or special venting. And the way they work is, I'll be honest, I don't understand this Seebeck effect. I mean, I remember reading about it, but using alternating pieces of silicone with ceramic and a metallic element with a ceramic element on top, basically a temperature differential is created. So it doesn't like create heat or doesn't create cold. It like separates the two temperatures, which means that the hot side stays hot and the cold side stays cold. And that's something you have to think about. So as we're talking about Peltiers, just remember it does make one side very cold. And we've done Peltier projects where you can basically create ice crystals using electricity, and like you don't, again, very thin connected shape, but you have to get the heat off of the other side. So it creates this temperature differential, which is great if you want to cool something off. Often it's a hot chip, or it's a fluid that you want to cool down to a low temperature, and you don't want to have a big freon or other gas or fluid based compressor using cooling system. Peltier is much smaller, much less expensive, and potentially uses less energy depending on how much area you want to cool down. But you need, see at the bottom there, that heat sink, you need that heat sink. And we'll talk about that shortly, but just so this catches people. They're like, oh, the cold side gets cold, and then after like a minute, they're like, wait a minute, the cold side isn't cold anymore. It's like, yeah, the heating, that hot part is going to start heating up the cold side if it doesn't get that heat dissipated away.
I like this.
Yeah.
Okay, got this.
Classic.
Yeah.
So what's nice is one of the things I really like about Same Skies, they have Ryan Smoot. Don't know if he's related to the MIT Smoot, but I remember looking at those Smoots as I cross the bridge every day. He writes great posts about their products and how to select them. So one thing he does is he explains this graph, which is like in every Peltier data sheet, where you see these lines going down, these lines going up, and the lines tell you basically how to calculate the amount of voltage and current you're going to need to create the temperature differential you want. So what you do is you look at the bottom and you see that it goes from like 0 to 70, and that's the temperature differential. Basically, what's the difference between the hot and the cold side? And in this case, let's say we want 30 degrees of separation. So if the ambient temperature is about room temperature, we basically want it to be 0 degrees. Or if it's 70 degrees, we want to bring it down to 40 because we're cooling like a semiconductor or something. Then you have to figure out, figure out based on the current, if you look all the way up, if you have that line from 30 go all the way up to the top, you'll see that it intersects various input voltages and lines, and you can decide which voltage and how much current you want to use. You can see that you could use as little as like 2 amps, but it's going to be a real struggle. You want to kind of the most wattage, the highest voltage and the highest current. You're going to get like the best efficiency depending on the temperature that you're differentiating from. So at the top, you see it intersects with the 10 amp, and then if you with that 10 amp intersection on the very top, and you draw another line to the left, it tells you the input voltage. So about 11, 12 volts. And so, if you want to get this temperature differential, and you want to pump, use a heat pump with 40 watts, it's going to take you, 110 watts of power because you have 11 volts and 10 amps. And that's something you have to think about, because not only do you have the 40 watts of the Peltier itself is 40 watts, but then you also have to dissipate the 110 volts as well. So it's 150 watts total dissipation, which is a huge amount of heat that you have to get rid of, which is why a lot of Peltiers you'll see have a gigantic heat sink attached to it. So in this case, this is like, a product I think we used to sell, or we still do.
Yeah.
There's the Peltier in the middle there, and you can see there it's kind of sandwiched with that metal bar, and then there's this gigantic heat sink and a gigantic fan, because you have to pull away that heat in order for it to reduce the current. Now you're thinking like, okay, wait a minute. If you're pulling away the heat, why not just put the heat sink and the fan directly on? And the answer is, you will be able to dissipate the heat from the original item, but you'll never get it below the ambient temperature, right? Because you'll never be able to pull off. It's like you're not generating cooling, you're just dissipating heat. With the Peltier, you'll actually be able to make something colder than ambient. So for example, a common thing you'll see this in is I have a little like micro fridge for, a can of soda or a drink or whatever. These use Peltiers because they're not big enough to have a compressor. And so there's a fan that is constantly, getting rid of the heat. And so like, for example, like I used this when I had, breast milk, I had to cool down. And so ambient temperature was, 25 degrees. And I wanted the temperature of the fluid to go down to like 10 degrees. It's only a 15-degree differentiation. So you didn't need a gigantic Peltier, but it did have to have this fan to dissipate that temperature. Okay, so Peltiers are Peltiers. You can get them in, big ones, small ones, whatever. But what I thought was very interesting, in particular about the Same Sky offerings, is that they had this micro series, which is extremely cool. So these are tiny little Peltiers, and they're so tiny, you can put them on top of like your semiconductor chip. And I've never seen tiny ones. Like I've seen smallish ones that are like an inch by an inch, but I've never seen ones that were, and here there's the sophistications. These tend to be somewhat low voltage because again, they're so small, you don't have that many junctions. These are tiny. They're 5 by 3 millimeters. So you could like literally put this on the back of a TO220, for example, which I thought was like really cool. They even come, I think, with a little adhesive. And you'll see they don't use like, the Peltier we were talking about before is like 110 amps of dissipation. This one, you can pump like, 0.1, watts. Input voltage is like, half a volt, half an amp. So, not a ton, it's like 2.5 watts, but still, like I said, it's rare to see such tiny ones available. They also have, bigger ones, of course, of the wide variety. But check out the mini ones. This is one I picked out, was this like tiny little one. This is 3.5 by 3.5 millimeters. So perfect if you have a little, like a stepper motor driver or some others, like a camera sensor, somebody mentioned. This will really let you get that temperature down below even like the ambient temperature of the enclosure, down to like, 10, 20 degrees.
All right. And there's a video. They do really good videos.
They do videos and documentation.
That's a really good
voice.
Speaking voice.
Yeah, I know. And it's actually the person too, which is amazing. I've seen a lot. We've not included a lot of videos from companies because I'm like, wow, that's just a robot generated voice. This one sounds very crisp and clear, like it could be, but it's not.
It's that good. Anyways,
it's that guy.
So check it out.
With that, we can discuss some of the different features of the Peltier devices to make sure you're getting the right device for your application. When you're choosing a Peltier device, you'll need to first identify your requirements. How much heat needs to be transferred? What will be the temperature difference from hot side to cold side, otherwise known as delta T? What size object are you trying to cool? And how will you need to mount the Peltier on the device being cooled? Looking at our parametric search as an example, you can sort through each of these quite easily. To solve the scenario discussed before, requiring the movement of 40 watts and a 30-degree differential, We can either manually look at the Qmax on each device while scrolling through them, and then jump into the product page to verify the delta temperature, or we can use the filters on the top. For us, we can just put in the range of power transfer we want, and it looks like all of them will be able to handle the temperature differential. Now, it's just a matter of selecting the appropriately sized Peltier module to match your design requirements. Once you've selected a potential Peltier module, it's also essential to make certain to calculate the voltage and current required as we did earlier. This way, you know that you can provide the proper voltage and sufficient current to run the device properly.
Alrighty, so it's almost time, Ladyada. Glow Stitch is the code, and let's do some new products. Ready to do it?
Yep. Girls just wanna have new.
Yeah.
New.
Okay, first up, it's an update.
Yes, this is an update. We've got the Neo RGB stemma board. This is the board that takes NeoPixel signal input and up to, I think, 16 volts power, and it will convert the NeoPixel signal for 1 pixel into 1 RGB control. So you can, like, if you have, these RGB neons or like an RGB LED, and especially ones that take 12 volts and you want like the whole thing lights up the same color, you want to control it as if it was a NeoPixel. This has the 3 high voltage, high current transistors, the WS2811, and now it includes a level shifter. So if your NeoPixel signal is 3 volts, it'll work much, much better. Before it was a little bit flaky at 3. It worked great at 5, but now it works perfectly at any voltage. I just rearranged the parts a little bit, and great for making your RGB LEDs into NeoPixels.
Okay, the star of the show, besides you, Ladyada, our customers, our staff, the community, and everyone doing all the code in Russian. No, it is because it's funny.
That's funny.
Inside joke. Okay, is this
Glow Stitch? So this is from Maker Queen. We love products that come from this company, and I'm happy to stock this really neat, like wearable friendly, but also like crafting friendly kit. This kit I think is great because it comes with a lot of stuff. It comes with a coin battery holder, so use a CR2032. But what I like is they also include AAA batteries, which I think are way safer. Coin cell batteries are much smaller, but like there is a risk that kids will swallow.
Look, this is not a $54 million VC funded company, and they had plenty of time to put the open source hardware logo and say that it's Creative Commons. You can do it.
It's possible.
It's possible. This is cool. Nice art.
Product,
nice
yes.
art too. Yeah.
Really beautiful art. They have an extra touch. So
yeah.
I want to show one thing that's really interesting. I've never seen this before. Is the LEDs? They're not NeoPixel. So I just like did it. Hold on. I think I just triggered them. So these are little surface mount LEDs, and you just power them with like 3 volts, and they go through like a color swirl. They're not NeoPixel, right? They're not digital. Oops. Good. My battery connection's not good. Oh, I see what happened. This slipped. Okay, sorry.
Oops.
Yeah, I have the AA battery pack over here that I'm connecting to with alligator clips. And it does this colorful swirl. So it's like green, and then it's yellow, and then it's red, and whatever, and purple. It goes through the color connections, but it's not digitally addressable. So when you power it, it just like turns on all the LEDs the same color. And I'll take this off. You can cut these out. So this is like a super flexible PCB, and you can see that there is a little tab connecting. Let's see, you see the little tab connecting them. But you can just cut this with scissors, and now you have you can sew over them like with a sewing machine, or you can use this conductive tape that they include. I love this conductive tape. It's used for like ESD stuff, but it's also it's metal and has conductive glue on it, so you can use it on paper. It doesn't crack like copper tape, so it's like a little bit nicer than copper tape. You can also hand sew it if you want, but the nice thing is you don't have to hand sew it. And then this is some plain white LEDs. So those were like the rainbow swirly ones, and this is just Did I mess something up here? These batteries also might be dead. Hold on. Oh, live demo.
Did you not have?
It just worked. Oh, you know what? I think my cables are bad. Maybe let's go to the image.
That's what we got it.
Oh, you know why? It's because I'm using rechargeable batteries, and they're charging batteries lower voltage than alkalines. So, good thing for other people to know. If you're using these, use alkalines, not rechargeables.
Don't worry, I'll edit this. I'll say if you use rechargeables, here's one of the things that can happen.
Yes.
That's what the edit will look like.
Sorry about that. I mean, of course, it worked at first, and then as the battery started dying, it stopped working.
This happens to me all the time because I have rechargeable batteries. I have
Yes.
alkalines for stuff.
So, RGBs, and let's show the white ones. Do we have a picture of the white ones? There's also these.
Yes.
No, these
Yes.
ones, I think. Yes, there's also white LEDs. Or if you want me to grab some batteries or not?
No, we got to do the rest of the show.
We'll keep going. Okay, so click on here. Yeah. So the ones in the left, those are the 3 RGB LEDs, and then the right, there's just one white LED. So good for just like bright white effects. And it comes in a kit. You get everything included, and it comes with a booklet, and it comes with some cool purple packaging material. So yeah, I don't know. I like these. I think these are really well designed. I remember these were previewed, I think, at a maker fair, and I'm glad they're in the world now. This is a really beautiful design.
Good work.
Thanks.
New products.
New.
Okay, so don't forget, code is glow stitch.
Maybe I took off the glow stitches.
And we're also going to be doing some other stuff like top secret. Then we're going to get to your questions. So I'm just going to play these videos one after the other because there's a bunch, and we need to get out of here at 9. So let's do some top secret. All right, Ladyada, what is this?
We're in the club.
New York's Hottest Club is Desk Ladyada.
Oscilloscopes, DACs, RP2350s, we've got it all. I'm playing some tunes actually from Dan. Check out free MP3s for your download. This is great because obviously we're not going to get
SoundCloud. SoundCloud.com/Adafruit.
Yeah.
Not AI generated, haters.
No, this is real music. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm actually testing out this DAC. So we need, let me just turn this on. I mean, I'm sure it sounds great. We have a lot of boards that I want to do that have I2S digital output to play like MP3s or waves or whatever. And we don't have a lot of good I2S DACs in the shop. Like we had like 1 or 2, but our offerings are kind of slim. And so like 2 or 3 years ago, JP was like, hey, we should have like the PCM 5100 series. And I was like, oh yeah, I'll get to it. So this is a breakout for the PCM 5102. What I like about this DAC, first off, inexpensive, high quality, doesn't require an M clock. So it's great for Raspberry Pi or microcontroller boards. Line level out. And, we will be revisiting that issue because I want to do the driver for the DAC on the Fruit Jam, which is the DAC 30 TLV 320 DAC 3100, which has headphone out. This doesn't do headphone; it has a line level. So I'm actually playing music out of these little speakers. I turned it off, but it's a great way to just sort of test stereo. And then on the oscilloscope, I look at the waveforms, make sure they look right and clean. Hold on, I think the audio just
turn it on.
But it sounds really good, so I'm kind of happy because the layout for these DACs, it's always like you want to make sure you do a good job. But I don't hear like any static out of it. It feels really good. There's a filter on the output, and I think this is ready. So I'm going to make 2 versions, one with the 5102 and one with the 5100. They're like $1 difference, so it's like there is a price change. Yeah, it's okay. I know where it went. There's a price difference, and the quality is a little bit different. For some people, they might notice. So we'll have 2 versions of this breakout. I just have to test all the other like extra pins. These are like the standard I2S power and data pins, but these are the extras. I want to just check those out before I approve this for the shop.
Okay, cool. Hey, Ladyada, what is this?
This is a new design.
Oh.
I wanted to kick off the year and maybe like do some cool new projects with people who we work with. So this is a design by Timon who makes a bunch of hardware, open source hardware that works with the compute module 4 and 5, and like this kind of this flat design over here. Hold on, I'm not like really good at this. I'm sure there's like keys that are good. So this is the compute module that like people know and love, the compute module 5, the chip, the RP1, the flash, the USB, whatever, and like the power supply. And then this is a board which
is this like a Raspberry Pi compute module camera?
Yeah, it is. But sorry, I'm like
That's okay.
good at navigating. Okay, so the way it works, and he did an awesome like 3D model, is the compute module plugs in on the back, and there's a STEMMA QT port, micro SD card, bunch of passives and stuff underneath, and then USB-C, and this goes into the compute module for like programming it and looking at the console. A host USB connection. This only does gadget mode, but this can be like a host if you want to plug in like a keyboard or a mouse, and it's USB 3. Some GPIO buttons, HDMI output. Looks like this is the real-time clock battery, an optional battery. Maybe this is another another I2C port. Big ass caps. Shutdown button, which only I think works on the Pi 5. And then underneath, there's a little camera connector. You can use a cable and mount a camera on. So it's like kind of an all-in-one shape board. And what you can't, I think underneath, you can kind of barely see here. There's a the connection for the MIPI, the DSI. So you can have this connect to a camera as a display as well. So I was like, oh, let's just make like a really cute all-in-one, low-cost like backpack that makes the compute module do like a lot and can mount a camera.
Okay, I have a request. When it's in gadget mode, can we have a little speaker or something go gadget mode?
Yeah, you can go. Okay. Camera.
All right, cool. This is neat. Make an AI camera. Haters. Hey, Jackson Pollock. What is this? Oh no, Ladyada.
This is more like a screensaver, right?
Yeah.
So this is a really cool demo. This is running on the RP2350 Fruit Jam board. And what you see here is my little 7-inch monitor. If you back up, people can see. Yeah, it's like a little DVI HDMI monitor. And this is a 320 by 240 demo of just random lines with random colors. 320 by 240 pixel doubled. But what's really neat is it's not only coming out of the DVI port, but it's using the HSTX peripheral. So this doesn't use any PIO, and it doesn't use any timers, and it doesn't use a single core, which means that we can use PIOs and the extra core to do the BitBang USB host. So with the I2S amp kind of working, the SD card working, the DVI working, and the USB being worked on, we're getting close to having all of the hardware functional on the Fruit Jam board.
Cool.
Still need a good name for it.
Yeah. Ladyada, it's me, Morpheus. I'm getting you out of the rainbow matrix.
Yeah. This is a demo of the new Fruit Jam board shown here with the RP2350 and HSTX DVI. And we got Jepler got the version with the 16-bit 320 by 240 color. And now this is kind of an interesting mode. This is text mode. So the buffer actually just looks like, I don't know, whatever, 40 by 80 characters or so. But if you zoom in, you'll see it's rendered really beautifully because like the resolution is like 720p, but you can only write text. Like there's a font that this library comes with. And this is actually from the Pimoroni DVHSTX library, but we got it working with an Arduino, and this can be really cool for projects where you just want to show a lot of text and you want like high resolution, like a very beautiful look. I really love this font, and I think, of course, you can add.
Looks great.
Yeah, if you wanted to have like different fonts or like more characters, but just does a random color output. So
looks like art.
This mode, we might use it for something like, if we're doing a Z machine. Yeah. Where it like to just text adventure, like wouldn't that be a beautiful font to show on it?
Oh yeah.
So, yeah.
Transition screens and text adventures.
Yeah.
All sorts of stuff.
That's what we're looking at.
Okay, cool. Ladyada, what's this?
So I'm doing some testing with this new breakout board that I've designed for the TLV 320 DAC 3100. And what you're listening to is Scott. It's Tanute talking about CircuitPython on this Python podcast.
Whoa.
Yeah, weird. How's it happening? So
I heard you like Python, so you put
Python in my Python. Let me just connect this because it's tough to have two voices. So this amplifier is I2S input and can do headphone or speaker output. And I kind of had to fight with the PLL and configuration, but I finally got it working. And what I'm doing is I'm streaming a podcast through the ESP32 here I've got some code to do ESP radio that will, configures the I2S amplifier, and then it connects to this Python podcast MP3, and it streams the audio using an audio library that exists already. And I did this before with a Max 98 357, but this time I'm using the TLV 320 DAC 3100 because I got the library pretty much running. So the good news is that this amplifier works. I got the speaker output working. I also have the headphone working, but you wouldn't be able to hear it very well. And I've got the PLL generating the master clock from the bit clock. So you don't need like a second M clock line. And accuracy configuration is going great. Scott also got this working on CircuitPython. So far, we're getting farther and farther getting this board working, which means we'll be able to get this board working sooner because that's the same DAC chip that we have on here. So Fruit Jam audio based off of the TLV 320 DAC working quite well right now.
Okay, here is the Python version of Pico 8 Celeste running on the Fruit Jam here. And I can use these two buttons hidden under these wires to jump. So let's jump. It is running at the resolution 180 by 100. It's being upscaled for the TV by HSTX to 720 by 400. That's giving us nice square pixels to the TV and not using a whole lot of memory bandwidth to be able to render via CircuitPython. If I hit Control C here, whatever. All in Python. Python. Looks good. Super intense top secret this week. And by the way, these are the thumbnails that are on the videos. I do not use any AI tools. Someone was like, oh, do you generate those? No, I actually spend time. This one, because the font looks weird, it's not. I made this in, I use like Acorn instead of Photoshop.
I see why they think that, 'cause it's a little gribbly, but it's actually, that is actually the font.
And like this thumbnail was just, I was just, really tight on it. And then these are the photos from Jepler, but like, this was not AI generated.
Sorry.
Anyways, that's top secret this week. Okay, Ladyada, code is glow stitch. We're gonna do questions, then we gotta get out of here.
Questions.
Okay, we'll answer the questions that were in the chat in a bit. But first up, can the Fruit Jam fit in an Altoids tin?
I don't think so. It's business card shaped. I think the Altoids tin is smaller than business card.
Alrighty. Next up, could you tell me how to program the Atmega 4809 using Arduino IDE?
Yes, you can use the use it on the Seesaw. Megatini is the name of the board support package. I think it supports the 4809.
Alrighty. Next up, is that a Wriggle oscilloscope? That's the question that folks have about your oscilloscope.
No, that's not a Wriggle. It's a really, really nice Tektronix scope.
Okay.
That was given to me by Tektronix.
How could we weatherproof this? National Weather Service funding being cut as major institutions. They want to make their own ambient carbon dioxide level detector, but they want to have it outside.
Well,
because they're worried about there's not going to be a weather service anymore. Got to make your own.
Measuring outdoor carbon dioxide, you wouldn't use this sensor. It's not weadraproof. This is more for indoor measurements.
Okay.
It's really good
so this one you would never waterproof.
Yeah, it's not really designed for that. It's like you'd have to do a lot of work to make.
Maybe we should do an outdoor one.
We could try. It's weatherproofing stuff is a lot harder than people think.
This is the Feather RP2040 DVI. Does it work with Arduino and ESP32, or is it locked to Raspberry Pi Pico? I think they mean the hardware.
It's just it's using specific hardware on the RP2040 and the 2350, so an ESP32 can't do it.
Okay. Max resolution supported. That's the DVI output for the RP2350 Feather SH.
Well, it can do 720p in text mode, but for graphical mode, I think we got 320 by 240 pixel doubled, or like 400 by 240 pixel doubled, or 640 by 480 8-bit.
Okay. Them's the questions that were in the socials.
Yeah.
We answered, get these going. Will Zephyr include any kind of built-in Wi-Fi Connect manager automatically instead of having to build this into every firmware?
I think it does have a Wi-Fi connection manager, but I don't know if it's like a Bluetooth-based one.
Does that NeoPixel 2 RGB support 24-volt strips?
It supports only up to 16 volts.
Okay. Someone said that this will, let me get to the new products. They said this will be a very good,
This one?
yeah, maybe this one I was trying to figure out. This will be a very good glow switch to snap bracelet. Like,
Yeah. That'd be fun. Yeah, you can totally make any kind of wearable with this.
yeah. And then next question, are the Sparkle motion boards going to be restocked anytime soon? We hope
They
so.
are. There's been a lot of yield issues, like very bad yield issues, and we've had to rework them. And so I need to make a slight change that I think will fix the yield problem. And so I'm ordering new PCBs to do that. I learned a lot.
Okay. Looks like someone, oh, thanks, Tanner. For the at Mega 48.
Yeah, it's a
core.
Mega Core. I don't remember. There's definitely board support packs for that chip.
All right. Looks like the Altoid is just the right size of her car if you don't mind fiddling in and out.
Yeah, there's a lot of holes
Rough
and
board.
slots. I wouldn't. It's not really. I mean, for storage, I wouldn't use it as a case.
Okay. And guess what? That's our questions.
Yay.
All right, everybody.
Okay.
That's our show. Thanks so much for joining us here this week on Wednesday night. We're here every single week, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time.
Yeah.
Just Ask an Engineer. This has been an Adafruit production. Now I'm going to give you a treat. Y'all been good, so you get a treat.
Treats? Okay.
You get a treat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say the usual Adafruit production, moment of Zener, play a little tiny bit of music. Then I'm going to play one of the videos, but it's what comes right off of the oscilloscope at the end. So while I'm cleaning up here behind the scenes, go ahead and check it out, and you'll see some cool oscilloscope art and you'll listen to some cool music. With all that being said, this has been an Adafruit production.
Hi, everybody.
Here is your moment of Zener.